everybody. Welcome to the afternoon sip. Glad to have you.
Sip, sip, take a trip.
We're hanging out in the backyard today. Hello, everybody. Welcome, all our friends here. Glad to have you on a Saturday afternoon. Today, we're going to keep it mostly light, but we're going to start off with a bit of a serious conversation. It's one that's been brought to light by Jemele Hill, and it was actually on the cusp of Ryan Clark being laid off at ESPN that started a lot of the chatter, and then she had this to say, and then we'll follow up with a conversation.
So, let's see. Pull it up here. All right. Here's the list. Do you see this list? This is the top 5 highest paid podcasters. You see who's number 1? Joe Rogan. Y'all see that? Y'all see that figure about how much he's making? Because I'm gonna show the rest of the list too in a minute. As soon as I'm able to pull it up. Joe Rogan is making $82 million. Okay, that's a lot of money, right? That is crazy. Then you have John Coogan and Jordy Hayes, and I gotta be honest, I don't know who that is. And so that's me. Stephen Bartlett, I've heard of him. Ashley Flowers, I have heard of that podcast, Crime Junkie. So I'm familiar with that. And I'm familiar with Will Arnett, Jason Bateman, Sean Hayes. Yeah, you see that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. 82, 70, 45, 42 million. That is the list. Okay. And that's a lot of money. So, do you know who has the most Black listeners out of any other podcast? Who leads? What podcast would you guess leads in terms of Black listeners? And I'm gonna show you the next 5 because I think they did the top 15. So I'm gonna show you the next 5 on this list. All right. Now you notice what you don't see is you don't see us on this top 5, do you? None of us are on this top 5. Okay.
Let's pause that for a second.
So now let me show you the second group, the second 5.
Yeah, I just wanted to make one slight correction, and she did correct this towards the end of her podcast. But before we go on, I wanted to correct her. The number 3 person, the Steve person on the highest paid podcasters, he's from Great Britain, but he is actually Black. So there were 3 Black podcasters that made the top 20. But yes, one of us did make the top 5, but he is from Britain. So
You speak the King's English.
Yeah, so we could just keep on going from there.
5.
Sorry, everybody.
Here is the second 5. Let's see. There we go. Mel Robbins, Jason and Travis Kelce, Alex Cooper, John Favreau, guys from Pod Save America. Then you have Charlemagne, who's number 10. So the first time you see a Black face is 10th. And you see him at 27 mil. I was like, I gotta ask Charlemagne for a loan, man.
Okay.
Right. And then here is the final 5. Here's the final 5. Let's see, let me make sure I can pull this up. So you guys can see this final 5 list. So because I see many of you in the chat like, what? Who? Huh? Yeah, I got you. All right, here is the final 5. You got Tucker Carlson, Scott Galloway, Pardon My Take. I've never heard of Andrew Huberman. No disrespect. I don't know who that is. I don't know who the Giggly Squad is either. But the whole point of that exercise is to show you guys what the money looks like in podcasting, right? Now, remember, I just asked you guys who, I did miss one. Okay, so I missed one group. This is 11 through 15. I jumped to 16 to 20. So these were the top 20 podcasters. I missed somebody because a lot of people, you all have asked about Joe Budden. Joe Budden is in this list, and I'm gonna show you where he is in a second. Because again, this is important information. So when I have that conversation with you all about starting your own thing and all of that, let's see. Let me pull that up. So Joe Budden, just so you know, he is what number is this? Joe is number, because I had the information on my phone and I forgot to actually put it on here to share it with you all. Joe Budden is number 15. So out of the top 20 podcasts, there's only 2 that are Black, Charlamagne and Joe Budden, and that's it. And so when I told you all that, you know, you all, I get it. You wanna support, and you're just like, why can't y'all get together and do a whole new thing? I'm like, we don't support what we already have. And that list is what I was talking about. Is like, yo, I mean, that's all good and well.
Okay, we can
That you
stop
want
it
us to
here.
start on.
And that is exactly the conversation. We know the importance of independent media. But what's even more important for us to continue to get our voices heard and our stories told, people of color, marginalized groups, we don't have as prominent a voice in mainstream media, legacy media. And the answer to the question of who had the most Black supporters, Black viewers, was Joe Rogan.
I knew it.
Make it make sense that he would have the most Black viewers. Only 3 people of color made that top 20 paid list. So it's not just enough to like and subscribe. They need your support as well, because you know that Don Lemon has quite a following. You know that Joy Reid has quite a following, but the support is not necessarily monetarily there. And the more support that they have from our community, we got to put our dollars where it best serves us as a community. And that's those marginalized voices that we need to be throwing our support behind. It's crazy to me that anyone of color would be listening to Joe Rogan right now,
Yeah,
let
makes no sense to me
alone
either.
elevating him to the top paid podcaster right now.
It's making me
It's
think, is the list correct?
I used to watch Joe Rogan faithfully. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was a Rogan ace,
You
and
were.
I
What
have
made
not,
you watch him?
because I like he talked about science things, aliens, all that kind of stuff, crime. I just was interested in the people he had on there, CIA people. I like stuff like that. I like to know little things, and I would listen to the commentary, and they had a long format. It was very interesting. But then I started watching it evolve into some stuff where I would be doing something, and I was like, what? And I don't watch him. I haven't watched him in over a year. I mean, besides his little clips or whatever. But I mean, I was faithfully, probably daily watching him. Um, I watched Joe Budden. I watched Charlamagne on the Breakfast Club, but not Flagrant or any of that stuff and the other stuff that he does. So, um, huh. It's just very, very interesting. And some of these people, I couldn't tell you who they are. I couldn't pick them out in the lineup.
Mm-mm.
exactly.
And I
I
used
mean,
to watch. I used to watch some of Charlamagne the God, but I found that Charlamagne doesn't support a lot of the Black people that I support. and
right.
uh and he always had a lot of negative things to say, and he himself said he was responsible, he felt, for Kamala not getting, winning the election, because he disparaged a lot of Black men about her and how she treated them.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
he had
But I you know
controversy with the. Go
I
ahead.
never had no problem with me personally. I didn't know anything about Kamala that would have turned me another way. To me, everything she did was positive that she wanted to do for the community.
Yeah.
Well, it was also they helped get Trump elected, bringing him on, making him seem normal and stuff on the different podcasts because he was a little bit everywhere. But I noticed this is the one thing though. even in Hollywood, I'm gonna go Hollywood because this is not Hollywood, but it's kind of the same. You got 4 or 5 players and they do it all. Coleman Domingo is everybody. You know what I'm saying? This person is everybody. You got, Samuel L. Jackson. We go through 5 people. Then there's another 5. And so, and then I'm just gonna keep it 100 today because I'm just over stuff. Sometimes black people in their community just don't support you. I talk to people all the time. So many people will support me, and the other ones, I'll say it, they just ignore everything I say. Or I don't do politics, or I'm not interested. I said we talk about more than that. Oh, I'm not interested. I think sometimes there's some people who just don't want to see other people get ahead, and or think you're going to get something that they don't get, and so they won't support you. But we put the word out there. All we got to do is have people engage in it, not just look at it, engage in it.
Right, exactly. And I think that was the point that Jamil was making. There was, after Ryan Clark got laid off at ESPN, of course, people were outraged behind that. And then that's when the calls start. Let's just create something for us. Well, Roland Martin already did that. He has a Black network with lots of shows under his umbrella. And as Jamil was pointing out, there are outcries for us to create something new, but you're not supporting what's already there. And so as a community, we need to come together. That's part of the reason why we started Our Voice. It's just, you want to have a platform to tell the stories that mean the most to you. And we need support to make that work. We need support to make that a success.
Well, the one thing that Angry Army Vet said, she said, I don't know one black person that listens to Joe Rogan. I need to meet one of these weirdos. And what I was thinking was, a lot of the shows, they don't even mention any black people at all. Like the show that we just left or separated from, they said it was too much black content for them, and so therefore our views were different, and we had to move another way. Not that nobody, to me, I wasn't angry, but I just felt like I had different ideas than they did, because they came after the brown people. They've always come after black people, and their idea is to put us back on the fields again, and that's what's important to me, that I'm not going back on the fields, that I still like my freedom, and we need to find a way out, and the only way out is for us to support one another, and that's what my goal is to support one another. And the black people or brown people that speak up on causes that are important to us, I'll help support. But the ones that speak against us, like Donald Trump, I'm not for. I don't understand why we want to vote for people or be around people that mean us no good.
And that's the whole point. Put your support behind people that support you. And it's the same in every aspect, whether it's a podcaster, whether it's an elected official. You must put your support behind those that support us. So we want to are we going to move?
Right.
Yeah, we're going to move on to speaking of support and speaking of villages supporting one another. We're going to move on into the topic of family. Miss Andrea wanted to bring that to the forefront and have a conversation about that. So we're going to let her introduce this topic to us.
I have some friends, and I know a lot of people that are not doing good right now. I know a lot of people that have lost their jobs and need to move in with other people. Matter of fact, I moved in with my son. Since then I have been able to move back on my own, but who knows how long that can last with Trump in office. But I know several people that have to depend on other people, and it's not always your family. And I wanted to talk about, what family looks like to you, because I lost my mother years ago. And so the people in this channel know that I look up to someone else as my second mother, because I don't have a mother to talk to no more, or somebody that's interested in me in the way that she is. And I've lost a couple of sons already. I've lost my brother. So the family to me it might be somebody I met at work. It might be someone from church. It could be anybody. So your aunt feels like your aunt now is sometimes politicians. What's her name? That one everybody called Auntie, and Trump hates her. And I know April Ryan is one of them. And I can't Maxine. That's who I'm thinking about.
Waters.
Auntie Maxine. And but our family is not what it looks like no more. I might say that this is my daughter now, and people will say to me, Andrea, that's not your natural daughter. I said, I know, but she feels like a daughter to me, and she lives in California, but that's my daughter to me, and I'm gonna be there for her. So I wanted to play this, this short video that kind of means the same thing. What is a family?
There are so many different types of families out there. Just think about the people that you live with, see on holidays, and the people who take care of you and love you. That's your family. A family is a group of people, big or small, who love, protect, and keep you safe. You might live with some parts of your family and not with others. Your family also may look different than someone else's, and that's totally okay. Every family with kids has an adult who is responsible for them. You might call these people your parents. You could have a mom, a dad, 2 moms, 2 dads, 1 mom, 1 dad, a grandparent, or an older sibling. You may even have a step-parent. They become a part of your family when they marry your mom or dad. If your step-parent has kids with another family before joining yours, you get to have a blended family. In some families, the adult is a guardian. This person is responsible for taking care of the children, but might not go by mom or dad. In some families, the kids call the guardian by their first name. In other families, the grandparents act like the parents, and in some families, there aren't any grandparents. Some people live with their grandparents, and some might live away from them. In your family, you might have a sibling, like a sister or brother. Maybe you have lots of them, or maybe you have none. If your adults have siblings, you probably call them aunts or uncles. They are part of your extended family. In some families, an adult gives birth to the children, and in others, they are adopted. Adoption happens when the parent who gave birth to the child is not able to take care of them, and so the child gets to join another family that can take care of them. Sometimes the people you call family are not even related to you at all. Like if your parents have a close friend who also loves you very much. You might call these people aunts and uncles even if they aren't really related to you. If you have a pet cat, dog, rabbit, or bird, maybe you think of them as your family too. A family is whatever you make it to be.
And I think that's wonderful. I've never had any grandparents either. So, and I have one granddaughter now, and her father has already gone home. So, not having grandparents, not being responsible for a granddaughter, and not having her father here, all of this is very different to me. And I think it takes each and every one of us to support each other. And that's why, I like having good friends. I like, my church, my church membership and the people I associate with there. I just, I think people are what make the world go round. People loving other people. I hate seeing all the hatred going around with Donald Trump because yes, he is making his family wealthier and wealthier, but in turn, he's making everybody else hurt.
I think family. I have a big, like, real family. I have a lot. I used to have a really big extended family, but now they've come down to a microcosm. Um, for various reasons. It ebbs and flows. Some people I was close to when I was younger, middle aged, and so on. Doesn't mean I love them any less, but I do think that the support is so important. There were some things I had to learn along the way. That there's some things, I don't care if you got 55 first cousins or not, you're gonna have to take care of yourself. But we need to have everybody. I have all my I had luckily to have many of my grandparents, my great grandparents. My grandma's still alive. She's 93. So I'm very blessed for that, and she's got her mental faculties and everything. It's just that and all my auntie, I knew all my grandma's sisters and her brother. They all passed away like late in life. I knew my great great grandmother. She was born 1890. She died when I was 12.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm like my grandma now. I'm like, I knew your grandma. That's crazy. And I have pictures of the so Miss Connie in that was just talking. You put up her thing. Her mother is my grandmother's sister, and she was a nurse. God bless her. But anyway, she's the oldest, and there's pictures of her, Connie's baby sister, great great grandma, great great grandma, and great 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 grandma.
Mm.
We talking way back. And I said, man, that's so anyway, it's important to have family is my point. It's important to understand that family is not always going to be the person that you was born in the house with or that you grew up with. It may be somebody that comes in randomly. I have people that help me get my career off and all kinds of things. And they're all different races. I'm not gonna lie. I've had help from white people, black people, and sometimes people I didn't expect to. And I'm very grateful for them. I'm not a person who is against anything like that, but I don't care what color you are. All skin folks and kin folks.
That's true. That is true. That is true. Family is definitely not in the DNA, and it's very important for us to have extended family, fake family, however you want to put it. Yes, yes. So it's very important. It's very important for us to have that. You had anything else going on today, Andrea?
Well, I was looking at what Angry Army said. She said, who I consider family is connected by DNA. Unfortunately, not all of us were blessed with a good DNA family. And I think that's why I talk about ancestry a lot too, because when I lost my grandparents, I was only 6 months old. And so that means all of my first cousins don't have grandparents. So we never grew up with grandparents. I didn't grow up with grandparents on my mother's side or my father's side. So, I think it's important to reach out to people that don't have family, like somebody will call me, Andrea, I need somewhere to stay, or I need a little help. And it's sincere. It's not them trying to take advantage or anything. It's they actually don't have anybody. So, and I believe that when you help other people, people help you. So, in this time that we're in, with a lot of Black and brown people losing their lives, we got to help each other. Even our connected families, such as when you talked about, to me, the independent media. I've been following Don Lemon and Roland Martin for so long. I feel like I know them personally, and I just feel like we do need to support them. We need to support them because they help us in turn reach our goals in life. That we're important too. Everybody is important, and I do have friends of every nationality, and it's not racism that has hurt me or anything. It's just the life that I've had, and people have taken away people I love. All of them didn't die of a disease or anything. A lot of them were taken from other people not being kind. So it's not easy.
No, no, it never is. It never is. You got any other topics you wanted us to discuss today, Miss Andrea?
Well, I don't know if you have something that I might want to talk about, because I know sometimes, this, if he was white, I do like this clip. And I do, if he were white, would this happen? I don't know. You tell me after you hear it. Would it happen to you if you were white?
Sounds like a conversation. Let's go.
On the 4th of July, a boat full of young people took an 18-year-old black boy named Nolan Wells out to a Mississippi island. Here are the public facts. The boat leaves the island at 4:31 p.m. Nolan isn't on it. But nobody in that group calls his mother. She doesn't get a phone call until 11 p.m., nearly 7 hours later. When she tracks his location, his phone isn't out in the Gulf of Mexico. It's sitting in a house connected to someone from that trip. The white friends claim Nolan refused to get on their boat because he wanted to stay behind with a girl. But that girl told police Nolan said he was walking right back over there to leave with them. That single statement shatters the white boy's story. Nolan was found 2 days later, face down, fully clothed, shoes and all. Ask yourself, how many people accidentally drowned at a summer beach party that can swim while fully dressed? I'm just looking at the facts, folks, and to me, those white kids are fishy as fuck. And right now, the insulated majority, white folks, we are doing what we've always done since the very first slave ship touched these shores, hiding behind comfortable complicity. We call it denial, but let's call it what the fuck it is. White racism. It is the narrative engine that has always given the lies of white supremacy a fucking pass, excused institutional failure, and kept the machine running. 581. That is how many black Americans were butchered in the Mississippi dirt. Lynched. Execution for the killers, for the white killers? 0. Prison sentences for the white terrorists? None. The machine didn't just run on hate, it ran on a dominant culture that watched the blood spill and looked the other way. Yes, the insulated majority has a terrifying gag reflex when you shove a mirror in its fucking face. In 1955, an all-white jury let Emmett Till's killers walk free. They knew the machinery of Southern justice would always protect them, and it did. Even after they admitted that they'd killed Emmett Till, it still protected them. Accountability? It's a ghost story. We traded the lynch ropes for a clean escape. But people looking the other way just sets a trap for more white racism. Black people are still turning up dead under mysterious circumstances. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as it was designed to work. So when a young black college athlete, a survivor in prime physical shape, who knew how to swim, goes out to Horton Island with a group of white kids and is the only one who doesn't come back breathing, we know the script. That benefit of the doubt is just a get out of jail free card printed exclusively in white ink. But the gatekeepers of accountability, they take one look at a dead black boy, shrug their shoulders and say, they don't suspect foul play. Imagine if that was a white boy on that boat with 3 black kids. The world would stop spinning. There would be helicopters, federal probes, primetime specials. And what happens next? The internet rushes to close ranks. You call a grieving black mother a race baiter. You demand her silence to protect the illusion of your fake fucking innocence. You know, black folks in this country aren't weak. They are survivors. They aren't paranoid. They're just not fucking blind. They know exactly how fast a badge and a gavel will twist into knots to shield the protected color. And here's the ultimate truth we refuse to look at. The cage we built to trap others, we locked ourselves inside it. The lies of white supremacy is a disease, and this comfortable complicity is a form of self-enslavement. Here's the honest truth as I sit here today. None of us outside of that island know exactly how Nolan Wells took his last breath in that water. But we know exactly what the white reflex does after the water. It proves day after day that black life is worth less than a white lie.
Hmm.
That was deep.
Very.
A lot to unpack there.
I will say that he just said one thing wrong. They did report at the beginning that he was fully dressed. It turned out he did have on, I think just boxer shorts. I don't know about the shoe situation, so I wanted to clarify that. But there's
Yeah.
nothing else other than that. What he said was wrong. And I tell you, I grew up around. When I was younger, I was raised in a certain kind of a way that my whole congregation in my church was mostly white people. I was in white spaces. I was in that. So I'm very comfortable. I'm not gonna lie to you. Never really thought about it until recently. But I remember growing up with Atlanta child murders, and I remember Adam Walsh, and I always thought Adam was my brother. I don't know why to this day I still feel like he's my brother because he passed away. We about the same age, and I remember I felt so overwhelmed about him being gone. Then Atlanta child murders came, and they had to, all that stuff, and it wasn't treated the same. And then when you seen the movie, you seen all the controversy and all that, and they still really have never gotten to the bottom of it, because that's why we say Black Lives Matter, because in society, a lot of times it's a hierarchy. So if John Bonet is missing and Natalie Holloway is missing up here, then we can't talk about Nolan but to right here, because this is too much. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
that's where my frustration lies.
Yeah. I agree with you there. And also I just have a real problem when people say, but not everything is racial. Not everything is about race. And yet everything is about race. Depending on which side of the line you're falling on, everything about your life is about race, whether it's going to give you privilege or whether it's going to be throwing barriers up in your way. And so, I think that that's something in it. What movie was that where the the guy was on trial for killing the men that raped
A Time to Kill.
A Time to Kill, where the whole thing that flipped the jury. They're sitting there, they're listening to the story, not having much sympathy, you can tell, for the father or for the young lady. And then he gives that speech at the end, tells all the horrific things that happened to her and how would you feel. Now imagine she's white. And it was a gasp, And while that is fiction, that's actually the reality so much of the time, is that if we could just imagine how the reactions would be, how the investigation would go, what would the narrative be if the child were white, and I think that's a legitimate question, and it's a deep conversation that we need to continue to have.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember back in the, go ahead, Miss Andrea.
I wanted to read Angry Army's comment, and she said, I think we need to stop framing it as a mystery when we know what the unsaid obvious is. Black people are not dying mysteriously, period. And it's not a mystery. And I said this on Don Lemon show the other day. When we go to Mississippi and we try to date white women, something happens. They don't want us dating white women. You know, even if white women like black men, I think people should be able to date whoever they want to date, and it shouldn't have anything to do with color, but they do, and they're trying to create. One of the things about Project 2025 is they want more white babies. And ever since Donald Trump has come on the field, he's saying, how come we don't have more? Why do we keep going to these S-hole countries and bringing minorities over here instead of going to Norway or somewhere and getting people that are white and bringing them here? Um, I don't think it has anything to do with color. I think it's how the people are. If you're raising a class of people that have pride and dignity in themselves and feel like they have respectable jobs and they're educated, I think he could still have the country he's looking for and get rid of the hate. Just
The
get rid of the
problem
hate,
is it
educate.
ain't going nowhere. It's going to be here. It's not
Mhm.
going nowhere. I don't have any delusions of grandeur. It ebbs and flows on how racist and unracist it is, but I just don't. I think it's intrinsic. I think it's built in. Um, I remember when I was younger, family members or other people saying, you know, don't go in the woods because ain't nobody coming to get you. I know they wasn't coming in the woods, but they was like, ain't nobody gonna look for you. All you got is us. We're gonna look for you, the community, because they're not coming to look for you because you. So stay where you at. And I remember hearing that over again, and then I started seeing things, and I used to think, I don't really think they coming to look for me like that. And so I was always careful for real because I'm not trying to come up missing because I know there ain't gonna be no whole team. And Nolan is a grand case, but it took his case to bring up two other cases and other cases because um because of the topic had to bring up everybody. We're all involved, and then what next? You know, then the next one comes up, Mister. So we need to be consistent too in
Well,
Yeah.
supporting one another, and that's
Well, and
another
the
thing.
other not funny thing about that is when we're born, we don't even have this fear. The fear is put into the fear we develop over time on this planet. You know, my
Yeah.
aunt lived across the street from the woods, and I always thought, you know, we used to run down in the woods all the time. Nobody ever told us it wasn't safe.
And it probably
Yeah.
was then. It's just a lot of things, and it's a very difficult topic. I understand people are very uncomfortable with it. Sometimes I am. I find it hard to. I don't want people to think I'm a prejudiced racist person. It's not that, but I have to also act in own self-interest, and I should not be conflicted with that when I have to feel guilt about wanting to care for myself and afraid to offend another. Does that make sense?
It does. It
And
makes
so
sense.
it's a hard place to be in, and it's like there's one thing for self-preservation in my life. I'm a dark-skinned black woman in her 50s, and then you look on the other side of it, and it's a very hard to navigate. And I think about when we're born, we're little, we taught how to do people's hair. We know what to do to white people's hair, how to wash it, how to do everything. If you go to the hospital, so most of the supplies are there. They just now got combs to comb heavier hair. So all these things are evolving and they ebb and flow, like I said, but the world intrinsically, especially our world in America, is built for white people and then the rest, in my opinion.
You
Right.
know, that's a question I've asked a couple of times is why do people hate black people?
I
I,
think it's a combination of teaching, life, education, and the intrinsic factor. It's built in. Even if I see a provider that is African American, let's say, or brown, whatever, I'm still more likely to have to come back to that provider the same amount of times that I would to any provider to get the same result as somebody may get that is lighter than me, we'll say, on the first or second round because it's built in and we don't even know we're doing it.
This
And
is
they
true.
actually teach it. Mhm.
you know, when I was coming up, my parents always moved us into white areas. because I remember being 4 and 5 and we lived in the projects, but then, my mother married my father and we moved to the white area. And then from then on, we always moved into white areas. And then when my children got older, when we moved into, or when I had children, we moved into white areas. And then some people today said that's doing a disservice to black children, like we're
Well,
gonna.
Malcolm X felt that way too. I think it's more affluent areas tend to have more white people. And as you do better, you move to more affluent areas oftentimes. However, it equates to that. And I think sometimes it does have negative effects and connotations. Um, being born into, I don't want to say a privilege. You can be black and still have be born into something which is more ideal than the other life. You know what I'm saying? Not necessarily ghetto, maybe, and you present different. Just like that whole situation the other day, I'm not gonna get into a funky Daniva and Daniel on Don's show
Mhm.
where he was saying he might be, like a sellout or something. It sometimes it comes off as that, but it depends on how you were raised and introduced and where you live at. Sometimes it comes off as that. It's not necessarily that. It's just that people have different ideas, but I tend to get like sometimes what he went through because of the way I speak and different things like that. I'm judged oftentimes. So, oh, you talk why are you. So we got some inner stuff to fix too,
Yeah.
and some external stuff, and that's the problem. It's like it's two wheels that you have to satisfy, and it's hard to go in different directions. It's hard to pat your head and rub your belly. That's what
Well,
I feel
that's
like I'm
just
trying to
like
do.
the white people trying to act black. I want my lips bigger. I want my booty bigger. I'm gonna get under this suntan and light, and get skin cancer. That makes no sense either. So we're inadvertently hurting ourselves. Did you want to read what Angry Army said, Monique?
Yeah. Oop. Uh-oh. Hold on a second. Andrea, why don't you read that for me?
Okay. It says, I think it is mental illness at this point. I don't have hate, well, I guess against anyone, but yet they hate me simply because of the color of my skin. It's the first thing they see and judge me have regardless.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
And
see
that
black,
and
but they see fat with me, and then they're like, "Wait a minute, oh
Well, you
no,
got
where'd she
fat
come
white
from?"
people.
that's part of the problem. It's an internal problem, it's an external problem. There are different socioeconomic things also that factor in, like Anitra was saying, you can be born into upper middle class or born into wealth and be a person of color, and unfortunately what you're surrounded by is something that is not within your specific culture. But that's where your upbringing, your parenting, and all of that comes into play, because you can live up in the Cosby world, but still be culturally aware or be taught, to have pride in your culture. It doesn't have to be either or, but it's very unfortunate that this is how we're taught to see things in America. It's black or it's white, and no pun intended, but it's
Right, it
one way
is.
or the other.
Well, but then the funny thing is, they say it's Christianity that that we're all Christians. Like in Texas, they want the Bible brought back into school, and it is going to be brought back, and they want them to read scripture, but yet all
Adulterated
we see coming
scripture.
from them is hate.
The thing is that they built slavery and used the scriptures of the Bible to say that the slave is supposed to serve the master. So we start getting into that. Religion and politics is gonna get an argument. And so don't. I grew up in a religion that, as a non-object, not conscientious objectors, means they don't get involved in wars, don't carry guns, stuff like that. You don't have any racial pride. You have no racial identity, sort of. Even though you do. And so I had some deficits when I got there. I was like, Did nobody tell me about this? You know what I'm saying? Why are they hating on me and I haven't done anything? And I realized quickly, oh, and I went back and I said I was a little upset. And I told my mom and them, hey, what is this? But I lost my train of thought. But anyway, basically, it's it's a difficult road to hoe, and you try to figure out which way you go. And I used to go to different families' houses, and I noticed when I went to the wider families' houses, they had nicer houses, different things, and I used to love to go there. And then I started immediately in my head seeing what I had versus what they had, feeling shame because I didn't have this toy or this one. Even with some black kids, so it just depends on where you're at and who you're around, but I didn't have any identity in that regard. And when I found out I was a little dark skinned black girl one day in Payless Kroger supermarket, you might know it as now, I was like, what?
Yeah. Yeah. It could be a shock to the system.
I was like
Depending
this
on,
the rest of the day in the mirror. I was like,
oh,
'cause I said, Mama, I'm black. She said, who told you that? She said, I said, the lady in the store said I was cute for a little black girl. I remember the sun shining on my face that day and walking and thinking real deep. And I could see my mama's shoes in my head. And she was like, oh, she ain't say too much. And the rest of the day I was in the mirror just looking like, okay, this makes sense.
I
wow.
remember a white lady saying to me one day, I was out on one Sunday morning, and she asked me, why is my coat dirty? So I've always had this thing about, you know, making sure I look clean, and but that was my only coat. I wasn't, it kept me warm. I wasn't thinking about my coat was dirty, and they sometimes look at us as we're dirty.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now, I'm assuming that is this a little funny that you brought to the table for us today,
Well,
Miss Andrea?
this one was funny and not funny. It was more true. It says, black men and black women, can we start over? I'm tired of us finding reasons not to love each other. Let's call a truce. Can we give each other a fresh start? And that came about because, I always hear of a lot of black men wanting to date outside of their race, but I don't always hear about a lot of black women wanting to date outside their race. But sometimes when these black men go into other races, they talk about black women in a demeaning way, and I think that's wrong. And I actually heard something on the TV today. The guy said that it doesn't matter if you're Asian or Hispanic or white, all of us have the same qualities. If we're unhappy with that man, we talking about it irregardless of the color of our skin,
Yeah.
but black
Ask her
men seem
ass.
to talk about black women very bad, and then we talk about them for always wanting to go to white women. Some of them go over there because white women have better credit scores too.
Oh my goodness.
And
Miss
Well, there is
Andrea.
a big
that's
controversy in the younger generation. I say younger, talking 40s, 30s, 40s, where everybody's talking about this. And they got the passport bros and all that kind of big thing, and what's getting and all that. And there is a big disconnect, and but the whole dating manosphere kind of thing right now is crazy anyway. And it's just it's a shift in consciousness. But I think sometimes people think because, and I say people, I'll say white women or black, I mean black men or black women or women of color or whatever you want to call it. Sometimes when you date white, you think that you have assailed to something, and that's fine. But if you're there for love, that's fine. But if you're not, if you're there for anything other than I love this person, I care for this person, not that they, like you said, improve my credit score, make me look good, or they're great for parties, then that's fine. But when you're there for other things along with that and the love or the so-called love, that's a problem. And we're really never going to know anybody's motivations until they come out.
This is true. This is true. This is a conversation that's got layers. This is what I
Layers.
call an onion conversation. It could go off in so many different directions because the answer is never simple. And the answer is always individual as well. You can't really generalize about a topic like that. So yeah, that's a deep conversation.
It is, and it
I've
can
always
get
felt
ugly
like
and probably get muddy.
I feel like
Yeah.
what makes relationships work, and this is my own feelings, and some people agree, some don't, is respect. You know, do you curse your husband out? Does he curse you out? Does he, is there violence in your family? Because you have domestic violence are in a lot of families. So I just think it's a level of respect. If you have a healthy respect for your husband and he has a healthy respect for you, I think that's what makes a marriage work, because then you'll sit down and talk to each other and find out what each other really wants.
That
Something
sounds so
like
good, Miss Andrea. You need to put
Mhm.
that in a novel or something. Get you a violin and some keys with that wine, because they like, is she thick? Is she thick? What she got? Where you get them lips at?
Mhm. I think we
I
have
mean,
to get
that's what they
past
thinking
people's
about. Who
shape,
did your
though,
hair?
because in my family, we have booties. We had that booty. That's there.
I was surprised when I met you in person. I was like, where'd she get
That's right. I
that?
got my
Sorry,
booty,
y'all. I was
and
like,
I'm proud of my booty, but I got some breasts to go with it too. So,
what is going on here?
huh?
Make it rain. Sorry, you start stripping
My
on
son
camera.
said something like that the other day, and I cracked up. But
Okay.
you,
Speaking of funnies, you got anything else for us today, Miss Andrea?
well, I had one fun. Well, I think I had one funny, and oh yeah, this is funny.
Okay.
You gonna do what I say. When I say cook, you gonna cook. When I say clean, you gonna clean. When I say wash, you gonna wash. You gonna do what I say. This is my house. I pay the bills. That's what he told him. That's what he told him about. Wow, that's crazy. Ask me to stop. This is my house. You gonna do what I say. When I say cook, you gonna cook. When I say clean, you gonna clean. When I say wash, you gonna wash. You gonna do what I say. This is my house. I pay the bills. That's what he told him. That's what he told him about. Wow, that's crazy. Ask me to stop.
He said that's what he said. He said, this is my house. I just connect the table and turn the lights out.
Now
When I heard that, I was cracking up. I said, "Did I cook?" He said, "Yeah, that's what she said. That's what he said." He does. He didn't say it. He said, "That's what he said."
yeah, I was
There's one out
wondering
there.
if she was throwing him a little lifeline there, like save
Right.
yourself, honey. Like
He's about to get beat up. They got one out now, and I can describe it. It's still funny when I describe it. And everybody's probably seen it, kind of went viral. The police show up because the husband walk in, and she's like, "Don't step on this floor. I just mopped it." And he's like, "Okay." And so he come in. The next thing you know, the police are there, and they said, "Yes, we're on the scene. A woman has apparently killed her husband for stepping on her wet floor." They said, "Have you arrested her? Is she in custody?" He said, "We're waiting on the floor to dry." It was
Okay,
a
like
whole
we got
SWAT
some
team.
sense.
They was like, "Is it dry yet?"
That was funny.
that is funny.
Sometimes
Well,
it's heavy conversations. We need laughter. That's what makes us happy.
and
No.
and we thank you guys once again for joining us. Please remember to hit the like and the subscribe. It really helps us get our word out there. It helps the algorithm. Share it with your friends. Comment on shorts and clips and things that we put out, just to start spreading the word. And we always like to go into the rest of our weekend with some words of wisdom and encouragement from Miss August. And it says, happy weekend. Pour yourself some peace, sip a little hope, and let gratitude warm your heart. And so we're wishing you guys a very, very blessed rest of your weekend. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
See you later. See you later.
Bye-bye. Don't forget to sip.
Sip, sip.